Okay, everyone. So recently, Trump has been talking about having a third term as president. In fact, it's been kind of an ongoing thing they've been talking about for a while. But now Trump and his people have been talking about this much more. So that's the topic I want to cover today. How could Trump actually try to get a third term, and what's the legality or lack thereof behind it? So first of all, I want to play this video of Steve Bannon, who is one of the higher up Trump people, talking about what the plan, or how there is a plan for Trump's third term. I
Well,
apologize
he's
to
going to
Steve
get a
Bannon,
third
but
term.
hey.
So Trump 28. Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
We'll get to that.
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is. But there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28.
That's Steve Bannon openly sharing with The Economist that there is a plan to get around the 22nd Amendment.
We have to finish what we started.
Trump himself has alluded to the possibility.
Okay, so yeah, so they have a plan, and when the time is right, they'll tell us. So just by the way, like, I'm sorry I had to expose you to Steve Bannon, but why is it always the ugliest ones that are the ones that do the most evil? I don't know. That's still something I'm trying to figure out. But here is a MSN article covering, hang on, not yet. Trump not ruling out third term as he proclaims to reporters, "I've saved the lives of millions of people." So let's just watch this video. This is Trump being interviewed on Air Force One.
There could be plans for you to be able to run and potentially win a third term in 2028. Is that something you'd be willing to challenge the court to be?
Well, I haven't really thought about it. We have some very good people, as you know, but I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. I mean, I just solved 8 wars and
I'm gonna make a video about that.
I believe Russia, Ukraine will happen. But we just did, we just left, and when you look at the treaty we just did, that was a war that was thousands of people were already shot at the border. And when you look at what we just did, was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We got a lot of good credit, and I really have to thank Malaysia for that, because they're really the prime minister.
He's kind of rambling. Blah, blah,
I
blah.
saved the lives. What they are good.
For 2028, they're very good people.
Well, we have great people.
So he's listening to great people, JD, Marco.
If you read it,
But yeah, as you can see, he says he is not ruling out a third term. Am I ruling it out? I mean, you have to tell me. Maybe I should just play a little bit more.
I'm not ruling it out.
There you go.
You'll have to tell me. All I can tell you is that we have a great group of people.
I just didn't want to watch the whole video. You know, it's difficult to listen to all this. But yeah, he's not ruling it out. He is not ruling out a third term of being president. And just imagine if Obama said that, right? So, okay. So part of this, the reason why they're talking about this is because they want to normalize the idea of Trump having a third term, because if they just discuss it, people will start to get used to the idea of it, and people might just eventually go along with it and not try to push back against it. But what could the plan actually be for Trump's third term? So let's have a look at this Yahoo article. Can Trump run for a third term in 2028? Mike Johnson says he doesn't see a path. Oh. So, okay, at the bottom here, I just want to cover this. All the time Trump has expressed interest in a third term in a meeting with congressional Republicans last year at a rally in Las Vegas after taking office on February 6th on a Black History Month reception, during a February interview, during an interview with Time magazine. So I think you can see, in his first term, he joked about being president for life. So, okay, so he has a very well-established history of joking about a third term, right? And so what could the actual plan be here? So let's have a look at this. What the Constitution prohibits and what it allows. Trump is the second U.S. president ever to return to the Oval Office after losing re-election 4 years earlier. The first was Grover Cleveland, as we know. But the Constitution is clear. No person shall be elected, pay attention, to the office of the president more than twice, regardless of whether their terms are consecutive. The language comes from the 22nd Amendment, which was formalized the two-term tradition established by George Washington in 1796. ratified in 1951, a few years after FDR won an unprecedented third term in 1940, followed by a fourth term in 1944. The amendment was intended to prevent any future president from doing what FDR has done. Legal scholars have debated whether there's a distinction between being elected to the office of president more than twice and serving as president more than twice. Could a former two-term president ascend to the presidency, again without winning at the ballot box, perhaps by accompanying a lower office that puts him next in line to succeed the current commander-in-chief? A very interesting thing. So what if Trump is vice president and then the president resigns and then Trump becomes president? Or, and this is what I think is going to happen, or what they might try at least, is that Trump would be elected Speaker of the House, because typically the Speaker of the House is elected from the House of Representatives, but there's no actual law that says the Speaker of the House has to be a member of the House of Representatives. It could be anyone. So Trump could be a private citizen, and if Republicans control the House, he'll be elected Speaker of the House. And then if Republicans win the presidency, they could just have the president and vice president resign, and then Trump could become president, because as Speaker of the House, he's next in line after the president and vice president. So, and the 12th Amendment, which says no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. So what this means is, if in order to be vice president, you have to be eligible to be president, right? So if you're not eligible to be president, you can't be vice president, which is why I think they might go for a Speaker of the House instead. Which is why it suggests he might not be allowed to return as J.D. Vance's running mate, even if he wants to. But there are other jobs in the chain of presidential succession that Trump would be allowed to fill in, like Speaker of the House, who is next in line after the vice president. As long as Republicans control the Speaker of the House of Representatives, they can choose whoever they want as Speaker, like I said, including a non-member. In 2023, Trump openly considered the possibility. Beyond that, the only other constitutional option would seem to be amending the 22nd Amendment, which is very difficult to do. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. And so let's have a look at the Second Amendment here. This is the Wikipedia page for the 22nd Amendment. And I want to have a discussion about the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. So the letter of the law is just literally what is written down and what people like wrote it meant. And then there's the spirit of the law, which is what they actually meant, right? So when the 22nd Amendment says, no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, I think we all kind of know in terms of the spirit of the law, that means no person can be president twice, right? But it literally, word for word, in the letter of the law means no person can be elected twice. So what if he achieves the presidency via succession? If the president and vice president resign and Trump is Speaker of the House, well, then he could achieve a third term despite already having served 2 terms, and he wouldn't technically be elected, right? So that's the letter of the law. The spirit of the law would say, what this obviously means is that you can't be president twice, right? Like, they're saying this because FDR was elected 4 times, and they wanted to stop people from having more than 2 terms, so that's the way that they wrote it. That's obviously what they intended to mean. But, so that, you know, there's a debate between the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. I think the spirit of the law is obviously against Trump doing a 3rd term, but I do want to have a little bit of look, I'm not a legal scholar at all, but I want to give my thoughts as to why, at least I think I can make a letter of the law argument as to why he wouldn't be able to serve a 3rd term. And that's because, so the president is a elected position, right? And it's, people have to vote you in, but in addition to that, there are other requirements, right? You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be 35 or older, right? So if someone wins a presidential election, but they aren't a citizen, or they are younger than 35, well, they're still ineligible, right? It doesn't matter if they were technically elected, you're still ineligible. And so what I would say is, if you've already served 2 terms, that makes you ineligible. So it doesn't matter if you, because the presidency, it should be an elected position. No person shall be elected more than twice. The office of the presidency is itself an elected position. And that's what they mean when they say this. And even if Trump gets what would be president via secession, it doesn't matter because he's still, or via succession, it doesn't matter because he's still ineligible. The same way, like, I'm under 35, right? Let's say I was the Speaker of the House and then the President and Vice President resigned. I couldn't then become president, even though I was next in line, because I don't meet the qualifications. I'm ineligible. So likewise, if Trump already having served 2 terms, I think that probably makes him ineligible. And another argument that I want to make is via the 12th Amendment, which it's somewhat long, but I think the most relevant part is at the bottom right here. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. So that means you can't become vice president if you're not able to become president. And this is why I don't think we could have a J.D. Vance presidency, Trump vice presidency, because Trump wouldn't be allowed to be vice president because he's ineligible to the office of president. Now, this doesn't say elected. This says ineligible to the office of president. And I think so. If this applies to the vice president, I think we can kind of imply that it would also apply to everyone else next in succession too, right? So you have to also be eligible to be president if you're the Speaker of the House, right? And further on after that, why would this only apply to the vice president but not to everyone in line? I think that sort of does make a lot of sense. And again, so let me just reiterate, I am not a constitutional law scholar. I can't give you like a 100% guarantee, but I think that is at least a decent letter as to why, a decent argument as even to why the letter of the law would be against Trump doing this, as to why he can't serve a 3rd term, but 100% the spirit of the law is completely against a 3rd term. And that's what I have to say. That's how I think they're going to attempt to do it. I think they might very well try to make Trump Speaker of the House when Congress meets in 2029, and they might have. And if they win the House and they elect him Speaker, and then they win the presidency, when I say they, I mean the Republicans. If they win the House and the presidency, they might have the Speaker, and they might have Trump be the Speaker. They'll have the President and the Vice President resign. They might try to have Trump be president via succession. Now, so those are my arguments via the spirit of the law and letter of the law as to why I don't think that should be allowed. But again, maybe Trump will just do it and get away with it. Maybe he'll just do it via force. That's completely like outside the legal realm. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.